The cold vacuum of space stretched endlessly, a black canvas dotted with stars. Amid this infinite darkness, a sleek Zarathi scout ship glided silently, its metallic surface catching the faint light of a distant sun. Inside, Xylar, a highly trained Zarathi soldier, stared at the holographic screen before him. His large, amber eyes reflected the swirling blue and green of the planet below. Earth. For the Zarathi, Earth was just another world to examine, another species to evaluate. Xylar's mission was simple: observe, assess, and report. The Zarathi had conquered countless planets, each one falling with predictable efficiency. But Earth was different. Xylar tilted his head, studying the cities from orbit. Tiny lights flickered across the continents, evidence of human civilization. They were small, fragile, and primitive compared to the vast Zarathi Empire. Yet there was something strange about them. The lights didn't just blink in orderly patterns. They pulsed unpredictably, almost as if they were alive. "Report your observations," a calm, metallic voice echoed in Xylar's mind. It was the ship's AI, Vexir. "They are unusual," Xylar replied, his voice low and measured. "Their structures are primitive, yet they exhibit organized patterns that suggest intelligence beyond their technology. They are capable of unexpected movement, and their defense systems, though weak, are adaptive." "Adaptive behavior noted. Proceed with caution," Vexir responded. Xylar leaned closer to the screen, zooming in on one of the human patrol ships orbiting the planet. Small, fast, and surprisingly nimble, the vessels darted through space like frightened birds. Xylar's antennas twitched. Most species would panic at the sight of a Zarathi scout, yet these humans seemed confident, almost fearless. A sudden flash of light alerted him. One of the patrol ships had fired. A beam of energy struck the hull of the scout ship. Xylar's reflexes were instantaneous. He twisted the controls and dodged the attack with fluid precision. "Impressive," Xylar muttered. The humans were reckless, yes, but their unpredictability was a weapon in itself. Unlike other species who would cower at Zarathi technology, these humans fought back with courage and determination. He realized something then. This mission might not be as simple as he thought. Xylar descended closer to the surface, hiding in the shadows of the atmosphere. The Zarathi had long relied on technology to conquer worlds. But there was something in the human spirit that machines could not predict. He watched a human city from above. Smoke rose from chimneys, vehicles moved along winding roads, and people scurried in patterns that seemed chaotic yet purposeful. Xylar had expected fear, disorganization, and surrender. Instead, he saw life, resilience, and determination. "Do you detect any immediate threats?" Vexir asked. "Nothing direct," Xylar replied, his voice thoughtful. "But their behavior is irregular. I cannot predict their next move with certainty. They do not act purely on logic or fear." Vexir hummed in acknowledgement. "Continue your observation. Remember your mission." Xylar's claws tapped against the console. Observation alone was not enough. He needed to understand them, to see what made humans tick. Days passed as Xylar moved through the atmosphere, careful not to be detected. He observed humans working together to build structures, teaching each other, protecting their young, and even risking themselves to save strangers. Each act was small, yet collectively, it painted a picture of a species bound not just by survival, but by something greater. A sudden alert pulled Xylar from his thoughts. Human fighters had detected his ship again. They fired relentlessly, not in panic, but with strategy. Xylar dodged and countered, but one strike grazed the hull, leaving a long scar across the metal. He felt a thrill he had never experienced before. Respect. These humans were not just fighting, they were thinking, learning, adapting. And they did not fight for themselves alone. They fought for each other. Xylar landed his scout ship in a remote area, far from human detection. The terrain was rough, with jagged rocks and dense forests. He activated his stealth mode and stepped outside, the ground vibrating lightly beneath his feet. The air was thin, slightly different from Zarathi atmospheres, but breathable. He moved cautiously, scanning the area. Human patrols were nearby, small groups of armed soldiers moving through the terrain. They wore armor and carried weapons, simple compared to Zarathi technology, yet effective. They communicated in strange bursts of sound, coordinating with precision that Xylar could barely comprehend. Suddenly, a young human soldier spotted him. Xylar froze, expecting the attack to come immediately, but instead of firing, the human hesitated, eyes wide in fear and curiosity. Xylar lowered his stance slightly. He could have attacked easily. The humans were fragile, and he was trained to eliminate threats swiftly, but he didn't. He wanted to understand. The soldier shouted and his comrades came running. Xylar braced himself, expecting a barrage of weapons. Instead, they circled him cautiously, keeping their distance. "You... what are you?" the soldier stammered. Xylar opened his mouth to speak, but no words came. Communication with humans was difficult. Their language was strange, yet expressive. He tried gestures, lowering his limbs to appear non-threatening. The humans relaxed slightly, curiosity replacing fear. They did not attack. They studied him, much like he had studied them. Xylar realized something extraordinary. Humans were fearless not because they were reckless, but because they valued more than survival. They valued courage, cooperation, and honor. Qualities the Zarathi, despite their power, often overlooked. That night, Xylar camped in the shadows, hidden from human eyes. He watched as the humans returned to their shelters, sharing food, stories, and laughter. There was warmth in their small settlements, something Zarathi cities lacked. Civilization, he realized, was not measured solely by technology, but by compassion and community. His datapad recorded every observation, every human behavior. But he also began to question his mission. The Zarathi demanded efficiency, conquest, and obedience. Humans did not follow such rules. They acted unpredictably, yet with purpose. Could such a species truly be dominated? The next morning brought chaos. A human patrol had discovered a Zarathi probe and destroyed it. The humans celebrated their small victory with cheers and laughter. Xylar observed, fascinated. One small species had managed to destroy Zarathi technology, not through superior power, but through ingenuity and courage. "Report," Vexir's voice commanded. "They are formidable," Xylar admitted. "They are unpredictable, courageous, and resourceful. They fight for each other and for ideals beyond survival. We cannot underestimate them." Vexir hummed. "Noted. Continue observation. Prepare for potential engagement." Xylar's claws tapped against the console again. Engagement seemed inevitable, yet he felt a strange anticipation. Humans were dangerous, yes, but not merely because of their weapons. Their danger came from something far greater, their spirit. As the scout ship ascended to orbit, Xylar looked down at Earth one last time that day. The tiny lights of cities twinkled in the night, a mosaic of life, resilience, and hope. He had faced countless species across galaxies, each one falling under Zarathi dominance. But humans were different. And deep inside, Xylar felt the first stirrings of something he had never felt before: respect. The days ahead promised challenges. Zarathi command expected results, efficiency, and conquest. Xylar would follow orders, but now he also had questions. Questions about the humans' strength, their courage, and their indomitable spirit. Questions that would shape the battles to come. The first encounter had ended without bloodshed, but Xylar knew the true test was approaching. And when it came, The humans would reveal whether they were merely primitive creatures or something far greater, something even a Zarathi soldier could not ignore. Xylar adjusted his helm and stared into the endless stars. The story of Earth's defenders was only beginning. The scarred surface of Mars stretched endlessly beneath the red dust and jagged rocks. Human colonies, small yet resilient, dotted the landscape. Smoke rose from domed buildings, evidence of industry and survival. Xylar's Zarathi strike team hovered above in their sleek ships, scanning the settlements. Their mission was clear: subdue the humans, collect intelligence, and prepare the planet for full Zarathi occupation. Xylar felt a strange tension. The humans were unlike any species he had faced. They were clever, fearless, and strangely united. Each encounter so far had left him in awe. Now, as he descended into the battlefield, he knew that this mission would test every skill he possessed. The first human patrol came into view. Small, armored soldiers carrying weapons that looked primitive, yet deadly in practice, moved through the Martian dust. They were alert, scanning the horizon with intense focus. Xylar's sensors picked up their energy signatures. Their numbers were few compared to the Zarathi team, but their formation was calculated, not chaotic. "Deploy now," barked Commander Zarek, the leader of the strike team. His voice was cold and commanding. "Take the humans by force. Show them Zarathi power." Xylar hesitated for a fraction of a second. He had seen enough to know these humans were unpredictable. Still, he obeyed. The first shots rang out. Human weapons fired bursts of energy, scattering the Zarathi forces. Xylar moved swiftly, his claws striking the ground, propelling him forward. He dodged, countered, and incapacitated the nearest humans. Yet even as he fought, he noticed something remarkable. The humans were not panicked. They regrouped quickly, protected their injured, and returned to the fight with unwavering courage. Captain Elena Voss emerged from the dust. She was human, young yet commanding, with sharp eyes and quick reflexes. She moved among her soldiers with precision, giving orders and inspiring them. Even in the face of Zarathi might, she did not falter. Xylar watched her, intrigued. Humans normally retreated when faced with superior force, yet these humans held their ground. She was not just a leader. She was a symbol of human strength, courage, and ingenuity. As the battle continued, Xylar noticed the humans using the terrain to their advantage. They hid behind rocks, used Martian dust storms as cover, and coordinated their movements with silent signals. Their weapons, though simpler than Zarathi tech, were clever. Some fired energy nets to slow Zarathi troops, while others set traps that disabled Zarathi drones. Xylar moved through the battlefield like a shadow, observing carefully. Each time he thought he had the humans cornered, they found a new way to resist. He began to feel a strange admiration for them. They were dangerous not because of strength, but because of spirit. "Xylar, focus!" Commander Zarek's voice snapped him out of his thoughts. "Do not let admiration distract you. These creatures are beneath us." Xylar obeyed, but a small voice inside him questioned Zarek's certainty. Beneath? He was beginning to doubt. Humans were clever, adaptable, and fearless. They fought not just for survival, but for each other. That made them different from any species he had ever faced. The battle escalated as more human forces arrived. Reinforcements came in small, nimble ships that dodged Zarathi fire with astonishing skill. Xylar watched a group of humans disable a Zarathi drone using improvised EMP devices. Their coordination was flawless, their creativity unmatched. Captain Elena Voss shouted commands, rallying her troops. "Fall back to the ridge, protect the civilians, don't give them an inch," Xylar observed quietly, noting how humans protected their own. They did not fight selfishly, they fought as a unit. Even injured soldiers crawled to safety, helping each other despite their pain. That was a kind of strength that Zarathi soldiers rarely understood. Strength of spirit. One human soldier, barely more than a boy, stood his ground in front of a charging Zarathi drone. He fired repeatedly, then dove aside, taking the drone down with a precise strike. Xylar could not help but feel respect. Courage like that was rare. As the sun set over the red Martian horizon, the battlefield fell into temporary silence. Smoke and dust hung in the air, making it hard to see. The Zarathi forces regrouped, evaluating the unexpected resilience of their opponents. Commander Zarek's voice was sharp. "This planet is weak. We will crush them. Send reinforcements. They cannot last against the full power of the Zarathi." Xylar did not respond immediately. His mind replayed what he had seen. Humans saving each other, fighting with courage, and refusing to surrender. They were not weak. In fact, their spirit made them stronger than many technologically superior species. "Xylar," Vexir said, sensing his hesitation, "do not underestimate them. Record all observations." "I am recording," Xylar replied, though his mind wandered. "They are remarkable. Their determination is unlike anything I have witnessed." Night fell, bringing chilling winds across the Martian plains. Xylar perched on a rocky outcrop, observing human settlements below. Fires burned in small shelters. Humans were tending to the wounded, repairing structures, and keeping watch for Zarathi attacks. Despite the overwhelming power of his species, they refused to yield. He noticed small acts that spoke volumes. A soldier shared water with an injured comrade. Children helped carry supplies under the watch of elders. Even in chaos, humans cared for each other. That was something no Zarathi training could teach. Compassion. Xylar's mind replayed the day's battles. Every human movement had been clever, strategic, and coordinated. Their courage was real, not forced, and their loyalty to one another was unbreakable. He realized a truth that surprised him. The humans' strength was not in their weapons or numbers. It was in their hearts and minds. They fought because they believed in something greater than themselves. Suddenly, alarms sounded across the colony. A Zarathi drone had been destroyed by humans, and a secondary attack was underway. Xylar's strike team prepared to engage. But instead of rushing in, he hesitated. He could have easily overpowered the humans, yet he paused, curious about what they would do next. The humans responded with ingenuity once again. They set traps, created decoys, and used the Martian terrain to their advantage. Even outnumbered and outgunned, they were winning small battles, refusing to be crushed by fear or power. Xylar moved carefully, taking down threats without harming those he deemed unnecessary. For the first time in his career, he acted with restraint not because of orders, but because of respect. He was beginning to understand what humans valued, and why they were so dangerous. By dawn, the battlefield had quieted. Smoke drifted across the Martian sky, and the human survivors tended to their dead and wounded. Xylar observed from above, noting every detail. He recorded tactics, behaviors, and strategies. But he also recorded something else: the spirit of the humans. Captain Elena Voss emerged again, rallying her people with calm authority. Her words were simple, yet powerful. "We are stronger together. We survive and we fight. We are human, and that is enough." Xylar watched silently. She spoke the truth. Humans did not need Zarathi technology to survive. They had something far more valuable: courage, unity, and hope. Commander Zarek grew frustrated. "Why are you hesitating, Xylar? These humans are weak. We should crush them." Xylar's eyes glowed faintly. "They are not weak," he replied. "They fight for each other, and they do not surrender. Their strength, it is different from ours. I do not fully understand it yet, but it is real, respectable." Zarek's voice was sharp with anger. "Respectable? You forget your mission. We are Zarathi. We conquer. We destroy. Stop admiring them." Xylar looked toward the horizon. The sun rose over the Martian ridges, casting long shadows. Humans moved steadily, prepared to face any challenge. He knew the battle was not over. Zarathi power was vast, but the humans' resolve was harder to break than he had imagined. A strange feeling stirred within him. Could these humans, fragile and small as they were, truly teach a Zarathi soldier something about courage, about honor, about what it meant to fight for something beyond oneself? Xylar did not know yet, but he was certain of one thing. Humans were unlike any species he had faced, and the days to come would reveal their true strength. And for the first time he felt anticipation, not for victory, but for understanding. Mars had grown quiet after the last battle, but the calm was fragile. Dust swirled across the red plains, masking the movements of both human and Zarathi forces. Xylar perched on a rocky ridge, his amber eyes scanning the horizon. For days he had observed the humans, learning their tactics, watching their courage, and slowly, an unusual feeling had begun to take root within him. Admiration. The Zarathi were a powerful species, trained to conquer efficiently, to strike without hesitation. But humans were different. They were unpredictable, clever, and unyielding. And now, Xylar faced a choice he had never imagined: obedience to Zarathi command or acknowledgement of the humans' remarkable spirit. The mission that morning was clear. Zarathi Command had identified a hidden human base in a canyon near the Martian equator. Xylar's strike team was ordered to destroy it, eliminate all resistance, and gather any survivors as prisoners. "Coordinates set," Commander Zarek announced, his voice cold. "We take no prisoners. Efficiency is our priority." Xylar hesitated. Efficiency? Yes. But what if there was another way? What if humans could be studied, respected, even aided? "Xylar, follow orders," Zarek snapped, noticing his pause. "I understand," Xylar replied, but his mind was elsewhere. The canyon loomed ahead, a deep scar across the Martian surface. Human structures, small and fortified with metal and rock, were hidden cleverly among the ridges. As the Zarathi ships descended, human sensors detected the incoming fleet. Alarms blared, lights flashed, and soldiers rushed to defensive positions. Captain Elena Voss, standing on a high ridge overlooking the canyon, shouted orders with calm authority. "Move to the barriers! Protect the civilians! Use every advantage!" Xylar watched her, impressed. She was young, yes, but her leadership was extraordinary. Even in the face of overwhelming Zarathi power, she inspired courage in her troops. The battle erupted like a storm. Zarathi energy beams cut through the dust, striking the canyon walls. Humans responded with ingenuity. They launched small projectiles from hidden positions, set traps that disabled drones, and moved with coordination that seemed almost impossible. Xylar moved with his strike team, observing closely. Each human tactic was clever, unpredictable, and dangerous. Unlike other species, humans did not panic when outnumbered. They adapted. They fought not just for survival, but for each other. In the midst of the chaos, Xylar made a decision. He would not strike the humans with full force. Instead, he would observe closely and, when possible, subtly aid them. A group of humans was pinned between Zarathi drones and a rocky outcrop. They were outnumbered and vulnerable. Xylar fired a precise energy beam, disabling the drones without harming the humans. They did not notice the intervention. They thought their clever trap had worked. Xylar's claws tapped against the ground as he watched. Each time he helped, he learned more about them. Their coordination, bravery, and quick thinking amazed him. Humans were more than just survivors. They were heroes in the truest sense. Hours passed. The Zarathi forces pressed on, but human defenses continued to hold. Captain Elena Voss moved among her troops, encouraging the injured, rallying the frightened, and inspiring each soldier to stand firm. Xylar found himself drawn to her leadership. There was a clarity in her commands, a simplicity that cut through the chaos. She did not fear death, yet she valued every life under her command. That was a type of strength Xylar had never encountered in other species. At one point, a human child was caught in the middle of the battlefield. The boy's small form darted between rocks, trying to reach safety. Zarathi drones moved to intercept. Without thinking, Xylar leapt forward, disabling the drones with swift precision. He scooped the child into his arms and placed him behind a boulder, safe from harm. The humans nearby looked in surprise but did not attack him. They sensed no malice. For the first time, Xylar felt a strange connection to these fragile beings. Their trust, even if unspoken, touched something deep within him. Night fell over the canyon. Fires burned in the distance, casting shadows across the red landscape. Xylar perched on a ridge, observing the aftermath of the day's battle. Many humans had been injured, yet none had surrendered. They continued to fight, adapt, and survive. Xylar's mind was troubled. The Zarathi demanded obedience, yet he could not ignore what he had seen. Humans were not weak. They were resourceful, brave, and capable of great loyalty. They fought for ideals, for each other, and for survival against overwhelming odds. He realized something profound. Strength was not measured by technology or numbers alone. It was measured by courage, resilience, and the will to stand against impossible odds. By that measure, humans were extraordinary. The next morning brought a new challenge. Zarathi Command, frustrated by the unexpected resistance, ordered a massive orbital strike on the human canyon base. The humans had no time to evacuate. Xylar knew that if he followed orders, many lives would be lost. He hesitated. Could he obey, or could he find a way to protect them, even subtly? Xylar made his choice. He adjusted the targeting systems to misalign the strike, diverting it just enough to miss the core of the human settlement. The explosion that followed was small, minimal, and controlled. The humans survived largely unharmed. From a distance, Captain Elena Voss watched the blast. She did not understand why it had been so limited. But she rallied her people and quickly repaired damages, her courage unwavering. Xylar observed, hidden in the shadows. He had defied his own species' orders, and yet he felt no fear. Instead, he felt a strange satisfaction. Humanity was worth protecting, even secretly. Over the following days, Xylar continued to balance observation with subtle aid. He provided misdirected intelligence to human patrols, disabled dangerous drones without notice, and allowed humans to win small victories. Each act increased his understanding of them. He learned of their resilience, their ingenuity, and their unbreakable will. Humans could endure injuries, loss, and fear, and still rise again. He watched them adapt to every Zarathi tactic, turning disadvantages into opportunities. One evening, Xylar observed a small human settlement under attack by a Zarathi reconnaissance team. Outnumbered, the humans fought bravely but began to falter. Xylar intervened, disabling the Zarathi team's weapons and giving the humans a chance to escape. Captain Elena Voss led her people through the dust and rocks, guiding them to safety. She never knew who had subtly aided them, yet Xylar knew. And as he watched them disappear into the night, he realized something extraordinary. Humans inspired him. Xylar's loyalty was shifting. The Zarathi demanded obedience, conquest, and dominance, but he had seen a species that fought not for power, but for ideals, for community, and for survival against impossible odds. And he had begun to question everything he had been taught. He remembered the first human soldier he had spared, the boy who had stared at him in fear and curiosity. He remembered the child he had saved during the canyon battle. He remembered Captain Elena Voss, standing fearless amidst chaos. These moments left an impression stronger than any Zarathi victory. Xylar began to realize a truth he had never considered. Humans were not just fighters, they were teachers. They taught him that courage, ingenuity, and loyalty could rival even the most advanced technology. The turning point came during a critical Zarathi assault. The humans had fortified a narrow canyon pass, planning to hold against a full Zarathi squadron. Xylar was ordered to lead the attack. He approached the pass with his troops, scanning for weaknesses. But as he looked at the humans below, standing together, prepared to defend their home, he could not strike. Instead, he acted differently. He subtly sabotaged his own squad, misdirected fire, and created small openings for the humans to counterattack. Chaos spread through the Zarathi forces, giving the humans a chance to escape, regroup, and survive. Xylar's heart, or whatever part of his being mirrored that concept, felt something new. Pride, not in victory, but in the humans' courage and spirit. By the end of the day, the human forces had survived the Zarathi assault against incredible odds. Many were injured, yet none surrendered. Xylar observed from a distance, recording every tactic, every act of bravery, and every moment of selflessness. He understood now that the human strength lay not in weapons, not in numbers, but in something far more powerful, their unyielding spirit. As night fell over Mars, Xylar reflected on his journey. The Zarathi demanded conquest, yet he had begun to admire the humans. They had shown him a new form of power, one rooted in courage, ingenuity, and unity. And for the first time, Xylar felt a conflict that no training could resolve: loyalty to his species versus respect for humanity. The days ahead promised further battles, but Xylar was ready. He would continue to follow orders, but he would also continue to observe, protect, and learn. Humanity had revealed itself to him, not as weak creatures to conquer, but as warriors, thinkers, and heroes. And deep inside, Xylar knew the truth. The human story was only beginning. Their courage, their ingenuity, and their indomitable spirit would test him, challenge him, and perhaps even change the course of the war. Mars was a battlefield, yes, but it was also a classroom, and humanity was the teacher. The red plains of Mars were quiet before dawn, but tension hung in the thin, dusty air. The Zarathi fleet had regrouped after repeated failures, their patience worn thin. They planned a final assault, a strike meant to crush the human colonies once and for all. Xylar watched from a high ridge, the glow of the Zarathi ships casting shadows across the Martian surface. His amber eyes scanned the humans below. They were preparing for what would be their hardest fight yet. Civilians were moving supplies, soldiers checked weapons, and Captain Elena Voss coordinated defensive positions with unwavering resolve. Xylar's mind raced. He had already defied Zarathi orders multiple times, subtly aiding the humans and allowing them to survive attacks. But today would require something greater. Today, he had to decide where his loyalty truly lay. The Zarathi fleet opened fire. Energy beams tore across the Martian sky, striking human buildings and defensive positions. Smoke and dust filled the air. Civilians screamed as they ran for cover, and soldiers returned fire, aiming at advancing Zarathi drones. Xylar moved swiftly. He signaled his strike team to advance, but he had secretly disabled their primary weapons, ensuring they could not cause maximum destruction. The other Zarathi soldiers did not notice. Their focus was on the humans below. From his vantage point, Xylar could see Captain Elena Voss rallying her troops. Her voice carried over the chaos, steady and clear. "Hold the line! Protect the civilians! Fight with everything you have!" Xylar felt something stir within him. Humans were small, fragile, yet fearless. They had faced impossible odds and refused to yield. Today, he would help them survive, not as an observer, but as an ally. The first wave of Zarathi troops descended into the canyon. Humans were outnumbered and outgunned, but they fought with ingenuity. Energy nets slowed the drones, traps disabled advancing units, and snipers picked off key Zarathi targets. Xylar moved among his own troops, subtly guiding them to miss critical targets. He sabotaged the most dangerous drones, ensuring they could not reach the humans. Every action he took was calculated to give humanity a fighting chance. He found himself beside the canyon's edge, overlooking a group of human soldiers trapped by a Zarathi patrol. Without hesitation, Xylar leapt down, his claws striking with precision. The patrol's weapons disabled, he created a path for the humans to escape. The soldiers looked at him in astonishment but did not attack. They sensed no threat. One young soldier whispered, "What is that?" Xylar did not answer. There was no time. He focused on the battle, allowing the humans to fight with courage and resourcefulness. Captain Elena Voss led a small squad through the canyon, defending civilians and rallying soldiers. She had learned from each encounter, adapting tactics to counter the Zarathi forces. Xylar watched her, amazed. Despite exhaustion, fear, and loss, she remained calm and decisive. "Xylar," Vexir's voice whispered in his mind, "you risk severe consequences. This is treason." "I am aware," Xylar replied. "But these humans are not enemies in the way we have been taught. They are something greater. I cannot allow them to be destroyed." He felt the weight of his decision. For the first time, he was not following orders. He was choosing a path based on respect, admiration, and belief in something beyond himself. The Zarathi fleet grew more aggressive. Orbital bombardments shook the Martian ground. Energy beams tore apart buildings, and dust clouds reduced visibility to almost nothing. Humans pressed forward, defending civilians and creating barriers with what little they had. Improvised barricades slowed the Zarathi advance, and human ingenuity turned the terrain into an advantage. Xylar moved through the chaos, disabling weapons and creating openings for human attacks. Each act was subtle, yet effective. He was no longer just a soldier, he was a hidden ally, guiding humanity toward survival. Amid the chaos, Captain Elena Voss confronted a group of Zarathi drones alone. Her squad had been separated, and she knew the drones were deadly. Yet she stood her ground, using traps and environmental hazards to neutralize them. Xylar watched from a distance, calculating how he could intervene without revealing himself too soon. When a drone aimed directly at her, Xylar leapt forward, striking it with precision. It collapsed in a burst of energy, and the humans nearby did not know who had intervened. Captain Voss paused, looking around, but then continued her mission without hesitation. Xylar realized something remarkable. Humans fought not for glory or fear, but for each other. Even unaware of his help, their courage remained unshaken. Hours passed, and the battle reached its climax. The Zarathi were frustrated by unexpected resistance, and their tactics became more aggressive and less organized. Human ingenuity, bravery, and adaptability continued to defy expectations. Xylar knew it was time. He could no longer act in the shadows. He had to make a decisive choice. He activated his communication link to the humans, speaking in their language. "Follow me. I will guide you to a safe position and give you strategic advantage." Captain Elena Voss and her squad froze in shock. An alien soldier, one of the most feared warriors of the Zarathi, was speaking to them. Yet his tone was calm, trustworthy. After a moment's hesitation, they followed. Xylar led them through hidden paths, avoiding Zarathi patrols and positioning them where they could strike the enemy effectively. Every step, every move, was designed to give humanity the upper hand. The final battle began. Humans, small and seemingly fragile, fought with ingenuity and courage that surpassed anything Xylar had expected. Energy beams missed, drones were trapped, and human squads moved with calculated precision. Xylar engaged the remaining Zarathi forces directly, not to kill, but to create openings for the humans. He fought with efficiency, protecting civilians and soldiers alike. Every strike was measured, every action calculated to ensure survival. Captain Elena Voss led a coordinated counterattack, striking at the Zarathi weak points. Humans who had survived previous battles now contributed, using ingenuity and courage to repel the invaders. Even the smallest soldier played a crucial role, showing bravery in ways Xylar could hardly comprehend. The battle raged for hours, yet humanity did not yield. Xylar watched in awe as civilians and soldiers alike adapted to every Zarathi tactic, turning disadvantages into opportunities. Each act of bravery, each clever maneuver, strengthened their spirit and resolve. Finally, the Zarathi fleet, frustrated and battered, began to retreat. Ships retreated to orbit, drones were disabled, and the remaining forces withdrew. Humanity had survived against overwhelming odds. Xylar landed beside Captain Elena Voss, his armor scratched and scorched. She looked at him with a mixture of astonishment and curiosity. "You helped us," she said. "Why?" Xylar paused, considering the question. "Because I have learned that strength is not measured by weapons or numbers," he said. "It is measured by courage, unity, and the will to protect others. Humans have shown me that. You fight not just for yourselves, but for each other. That is remarkable." Captain Voss nodded slowly. "Then welcome to humanity's side," she said, a small smile breaking through her fatigue. In the days that followed, humans began to rebuild. Cities repaired, defenses strengthened, and survivors returned to their homes. Xylar worked alongside them, teaching strategies, sharing intelligence about Zarathi tactics, and offering guidance. He was no longer an observer, nor a spy. He was an ally, a friend, and a witness to humanity's strength. Human soldiers, civilians, and even children looked at him with a mixture of awe and respect. They had survived impossible odds, not through raw power, but through courage, unity, and ingenuity. Xylar marveled at their resilience. Commander Zarek and the remaining Zarathi forces regrouped in orbit, shocked by their failure. They could not understand how such a small, seemingly fragile species could repel the might of the Zarathi Empire. Reports of human courage, ingenuity, and spirit reached them repeatedly. Xylar transmitted his final report, but it was not just data about humans. It was a record of their spirit, their bravery, and their unbreakable will. "They are not weak," he wrote. "They are remarkable. They fight for ideals, for each other, and for survival. They are worthy of respect, and perhaps a future worth protecting." Months passed. Humanity had not only survived, but had grown stronger. Martian colonies thrived once again, protected by clever strategies and resilient people. Xylar remained among them, a symbol of trust, alliance, and the extraordinary bond that had formed between human courage and alien wisdom. Captain Elena Voss often stood beside him, discussing tactics, rebuilding efforts, and the lessons they had learned from the battles. They shared a quiet understanding. Humanity had faced the impossible and prevailed, not through brute force, but through heart, ingenuity, and spirit. Xylar had learned something even more profound. Strength was not defined by conquest, technology, or fear. It was defined by the courage to stand, the intelligence to adapt, and the willingness to protect what is worth fighting for. Humanity embodied all of these qualities. The red Martian plains were quiet once more. Fires had died down, dust had settled, and the wind carried the faint scent of survival. Xylar stood on a ridge looking toward Earth. The humans had shown him a truth that he would never forget. Even the smallest, seemingly weakest beings could achieve greatness through courage, unity, and unyielding spirit. He adjusted his helm and spoke quietly to himself. This is only the beginning. Humanity's story will continue, and I will witness it. They are worthy. They are extraordinary. And with that, Xylar turned back to the colony, ready to continue standing beside the humans he had come to respect, and to protect the species that had, in a few short months, taught him the meaning of true strength.